This is going to be a quick video. We're going to do an IWE on a 2015 Ford F150 Platinum Ecoboost, and I'm going to show you the parts that I have. The driver's side IWE is locking up and shattering on when the customer's driving. So here, this is the check valve tube assembly. It goes up top on the firewall. Here's your part number, FL3Z38788B. 3A788B. And then here is the vacuum control solenoid. More than likely, if you've got a truck with a few years, you're going to see this clip is going to break. It's fine. Normally one side will stay on and it'll grab it. I usually throw a zip tie around it. This one, it's going to stay on there, but I'm still going to go ahead and zip tie it anyway. And the actual check valve line is this one right here. So the solenoid goes here, and the check valve line goes right next to it. And then pull this check valve side out of that tube, and then put the new assembly back together. So this is what the new one looks like installed. You can see this connector, it ain't gonna come back out of there. It's fine, but because of how strong this one is, I'm not gonna put the zip tie around it. Your nipple, don't get these mixed up. This one here, this one on the bottom, this one here, feed it up through the holder and then back into the line going down into your vacuum system. Now we're going to get the truck up in the air, pull the wheel off, and then start disassembling the driver's side knuckle assembly. So the next step that I would do is I would go through here and take these 8mm and 10mm bolts out of your bracket assembly and stuff and get everything loose, and work on getting you can go ahead and do this now. Go ahead and pull the vacuum lines off down here at the IWE. See that kind of corrosion and stuff down there? Here, pull the vacuum lines off, and then go ahead and you could actually test this assembly and apply vacuum there. You can apply, you know, 20 inches of vacuum or so and see if it holds, and then watch your vacuum gauge and see if it bleeds down. That's a good indication on whether or not the diaphragm inside here is not blown out. Also, you can go up top, plug these lines back in, find your vacuum lines up top, and pull vacuum on the entire system all the way down and see if the lines maybe have a leak somewhere. But typically, that's not it. IWE is just bad. That's what that shattering sound is. And then when you put it in four-wheel drive, it goes away. Then put it back in two and then start driving normal again, it starts shattering again. This one's really, really loud while you're driving, especially when you're turning. So I'm going to pull all this apart and get this IWE out of here. Anyhow, again, 8mm, 10mm, 10mm. Pull this stuff out of the way. You may have to unhook your ABS wheel speed sensor. Actually, your wheel speed sensor from up inside here. It goes up underneath the plastic and it kind of sits right up in this area, and unplug it and just let it hang. That's up to you on whether or not you want to do it. But I'm going to remove all this stuff and get it loose. Alright, so I've got everything off. Everything's disconnected here from the knuckle assembly. Up here, it's all loose. And I even went as far as, this is the ABS, or no, wheel speed sensor right here. And this first hole towards the front of the truck, I just took that loose up there so I can move it around a little bit more and I don't have to unplug it, because it's got a little push clip that actually has to hook, and it's a pain in the ass sometimes. 18mm, pretty sure this is an 18mm, and then here 21mm, I believe, on the outer tie rod. So I'm going to do the outer tie rod first, and then I'm going to switch up and I'm going to go to this here, and then it should almost hang. We pull this cap off here, just like with a screwdriver. You got to pry it off. Sometimes you got to tap it a little bit to get it off of there. And then there's a 13mm nut behind this. It's either a 13 or a 15. So if you take the knuckle or you take the wheel and you move it back, you'll have enough room to get a small impact up in there and draw that 18mm nut, but leave some threads on, because when you knock the top of this right here, it's going to pop. See, I got the outer tie rod out. It just came right out. If it doesn't come right out, what I want you to do is I want you to take a hammer with that still in there, and I want you to smack the hell out of the face of the knuckle right here, and eventually it will pop. Now if that doesn't work, if the nut is spinning and the whole entire tie rod end is spinning, you're gonna have to actually put a wrench on the nut, and you're gonna have to put a smaller wrench on the outside and isolate it. But let's pop this top part out. It's probably gonna pop like crazy. There it went. So it popped up, kind of comes out quick. Now we'll go ahead and finish pulling the nut out of there. But before I pull that nut out the rest of the way, I'm gonna grab this 13mm and stuff out of here, and I'm gonna push the CV axle back a little bit. I'm gonna get it free, and then we'll go from there. Okay, I've got this outer cap off, and now I'm gonna actually spin that out of there. Then put the nut back on and tap on the face of the nut to get the CV axle to start to move back. So now I'm going to straighten this back out to really line that. Okay, it moved back, it's free. Now I'll go ahead and pull the nut off the rest of the way. Pull that out of the top, and then work my CV axle out as I'm pulling down on that. This is how I'm going to get it out of here. I take a pry bar and I hook it up under the top spring, and then I pull down on it and it releases the pressure on it, and then I can spin my nut off the rest of the way. So as you can see, I pulled the knuckle down. There's no real stress on any of this stuff, so it's fine. You can actually pull it out of the back now. Just pull all this all apart. It smells burnt. It smells like something, it smells really, really burnt inside that. I don't know. Let's find out. Okay, so you have 3 8mm, one here, and then one down here in the corner. Where's it at? One right over here. So take those 3 8mm out, and then this whole assembly slides out, and then clean everything up. You can see it's really milky, a lot of chunks of debris and just nasty crap inside here. Little pieces of rubber. I don't see the teeth beat up real bad. It doesn't look like it was really chattering that long, but we're going to go ahead and put it back together. It was obviously in water. The diaphragm is not sitting quite right, so we're going to go ahead and clean everything up and replace all this. Now here's the part number for the actuator itself. It's a 7L1Z3 Charlie 247 Apple. So the most important thing when you go to put this in here is you need to make sure those bottom teeth down there seat around the back of that wheel bearing before you even go to tighten anything up. And then what I do is I take my hand and I collapse that all the way until it's touching flush here, and then I tighten my bolts up around. But make sure these teeth interlock with that inner part before you do anything. Okay, now let's go ahead and put everything back together. So what I did here is after I slid that CV axle back in, I lined everything back up. I brought my knuckle back over here, and I used the pry bar and went up underneath the top of this and pushed down and slid that in enough so I can get a couple threads going, and then I impacted it back on with a little bit of Loctite. You're really supposed to replace all this, but this is customer pay and they just want me to get it done. And what I mean by replace all this is you really should be putting another 18mm nut here. You should be putting one down here. But it doesn't matter. I mean, it all works. I've reused these plenty of times. Fine. I just throw a little bit of Loctite back on there, even though it's a nylock, and just send it. I went ahead and put my tie rod back on, tightened the nut up. I'm going to go ahead and put the 15mm nut back on the outside of the CV axle and put the cap back on. And then I'm going to go ahead and put all my bracketry and stuff back together and put everything back the way it was. Okay, it's all back together. Make sure you remember to plug your vacuum lines back into your integrated wheel end, your IWE. Make sure all this stuff goes back. You route everything back the same way. See how I got this vacuum line inside the brake line, and I've got the ABS sensor outside. Don't mix and mangle them up. And then make sure you put your ABS sensor back in its hole up here after you pull it out. It's easy. You just reach up through this little flapper area right here and you can pull it out, put it back in. Let's go drive it. Okay, let's see if we hear it. So far so good. Normally by now I would already hear it chattering. I don't hear anything. Yeah, no chatter, no nothing. Let's actuate it and see what we get. Make sure everything goes in and out of gear properly. So we're gonna go here and then go 4. Let's just try 4 high for right now. Okay, it says it's in 4 high. Drive back to the gravel. I don't want to drive on pavement for too long because 4-wheel drive is not really made for that. Okay. It's hooking up like it's supposed to. I'm gonna go back in 2-wheel drive. So when you switch from 4 to 2-wheel drive, you may get a little bit of a slack or a lag point where it doesn't want to disengage because you still got your wheels turned or something like that. So you're going to have to go forward, reverse, turn the wheel straight, give it some room, kind of like move back and forth to take some pressure off of that IWE, and it'll unlock. It's not as simple as just putting it in 2 and then expecting it to be there. You got to be easy when you switch. Unless you're already going straight, then you should be fine. So we just tried it in 2, we tried it in 4, driving around the parking lot trying to get up to speed, go a little bit faster, see what happens, see if it starts chattering. So far nothing, kind of moving the wheel around a lot. I don't have any issues. I'll go on a test drive and actually see if it does it on a test drive. I love these 3.5 Ecoboosts. The power they make is really nice. Okay, we're gonna go on a test drive. I can tell you right now, the main focus of this video was to basically replace that IWE and show you what the process is to do it. Ideally, that's the chattering fix, and I've talked about a few reasons why here, so we're gonna call it quits on this. I don't want to hold you guys over anymore. Same principle applies to the other side, same exact concept, and that's it. Thanks guys, be blessed. Remember, like the video, thumbs up the video, support the channel. It's the only way it grows. Thank you. Leave a comment